least distraction as possible. And Daniel was very good in his presentation. He wasn't fidgeting. None of his body language distracted from his presentation. So make sure you guys do least distraction possible. Definitely move around, but don't make it distracting.
Hand gestures are huge. If you're a big hand talker, keep it in mind. Something that we try to do within our practice a lot of times is tying in, this is what we're going to do, this is what you're going to get out of it. Making sure that you can get the judges buy-in, show them how it's going to benefit them by implementing this new solution for them. Risk mitigation is huge. You want to make sure you identify what the possible downsides to your plan are and bring them up. You don't want to just glaze over them, pretend they didn't happen. The judges will pick up on that, especially in question period. A trigger point is really good. So saying, this is the problem, but when are you going to address this problem? Are you going to let it go on for a year, 2 years, never look at it? Or is it something that needs to be done right away? And then you need to identify what you're going to do to fix it should this problem arise. Graphical or picture timelines are always good. People like pictures.
And just reiterating what you said in a cohesive way. Like, don't go all over the place, start talking about financials and then stop and talk about like HR, then go back to financials. Don't use the judges, they don't like that. So.
And then success measures. You want to tell the judges why, how are they going to know it's going to work? What are your goals out of this? So you've got the 3 here. Numbers are always good to present them with. So we have 40% increase in an average of 500 units. Don't just give them broad overviews of it's going to work because people are happy. How do you measure happiness, right? Then cost. This is more of an HR case, so there wasn't a lot of numbers in it. But for your numbers, you definitely want to tie them in. Make sure they work with the case. Don't throw up random numbers just because you have them. Make sure you can tie them back to what they're doing for you and for the judges. The conclusion slide is something you always want to build in at the very end. This is where Deanna was saying if you have that 2-minute time gap or you're waiting for that time and you have your really good person at the end to drag things out, this is your catch-22 slide. This is where you can stay on this, recap everything. If you need to buy that time, this is what this is good for. Or if you're tight on time, you can say, conclusion, this is what it's going to do, the end. So it's either you can drag it out or you can recap it really quickly. And then,
and I would just say practice, practice, practice. Like Daniel didn't stare at his slide and like his back wasn't turned. He knows it. There's very, very few words on the slide, so know your stuff. So it like those words are just to trigger stuff for you. So don't be staring at it and don't have lots of stuff on your slides.
You want to make sure the judges are paying attention to you talking and not reading your slides, because they can't do both, and they should be focusing on you.
Don't have a lot of distractions, a lot of crazy colors and stuff.
Yeah, keep your slides very basic, but creative as well. Stand out. Any questions at this point?
This is just a general thing. You guys will notice that the slides you have printed are in black and white. One of the things to be cognizant of is a lot of times when doing presentations like this, the slides are printed for the judges, and the important thing to know is that probably 99% of the time, the slides will not be in color. And so you don't want to have a whole mix of blacks and grays and reds and darker colors, because when we try and grayscale it, a slide like this would print really well because it's just white and a darker background. But if you have a whole mix of colors and we try and print the black and white, you start seeing problems where text doesn't show up. Your pictures don't show up. And then the judges, even though it's on the PowerPoint as color, they're looking at their piece of paper and they're trying to follow along and they're saying, okay, well, I don't really know what I'm following along with because I can't read it. So that's kind of important. Simple is better than extravagant and bright.
And even in terms of the writing, we've had this happen at JDC West before, where teams try and get uber creative with their slides, and you never know what your projector is going to show up with. And they've had where their writing is barely visible on the screen because the projector shows differently than what it did on the laptop. So it's better to stick to the basics as opposed to get all crazy.
And I just have an outline of the case by the clicker person so they know if something else is supposed to pop up on the screen or whatnot.
And this is something that they'll stress to you guys in your seminars over and over and over again if they haven't already stressed it. Do not ever interrupt somebody when they're speaking on your team. It looks really, really bad. Judges absolutely hate it. So for example, if I was talking and answering a question, and I said something perhaps that would make you want to cringe because it's not what you guys had talked about or something like that, first of all, try not to cringe. If you all of a sudden go, oh, even if you don't say anything, judges will see weakness. They'll see, oh, you probably said something you shouldn't have said. So no matter what is said, just stand there, smile, nod your head, even if it's completely out to lunch. And more importantly, don't interrupt them. let them finish answering the question. Even when they're done answering the question, don't say, don't step up and say further to that and completely just erase what they just said, because that just means that it's telling the judges you don't really have a coherent team structure, you don't agree with what the other person was saying, and overall it just makes the presentation look really unprofessional, and you don't want to do that.
If one of your group members says something, it's gospel, it's what it is. So if they say the sky's red, the sky's red.
I know it's cheesy, but like honestly, smile and shake your head so it looks like they know what they're talking about. The judges might not be listening, but if you're smiling and shaking your head, your teammates talking, it helps. It makes you guys look cohesive. Even if you want to like kill one of your teammates at that moment, smile and nod your head.
Again, it just goes to show the cohesive structure of your team, that you're all on the same page, you all agree with each other as to what's going down.
One of the other presentation tips to give you guys, have kind of a stance that the whole team is going to be in. I know right now we've got Dan with the coffee in his hand, Deanna with her hands in front, me with my hands in my pocket. That again looks unprofessional. The judges are going to be, especially if you've got, if you're a big hand mover, keep the hands behind the back, because if you're tracking your hands like this, I'm talking, you're staring at my hands, you're not listening to me talk, and you don't want to do that as well. So if you've got a team of 4, spend 5-10 minutes, just say, here's how we're going to stand, guys. Let's all stand with our hands behind our back. Let's all stand with our hands in our pockets. Don't do that. It's not very professional. Or let's all stand with our hands in front of us, because that way you come off as a cohesive team. The judges are saying, oh, these guys look like they know what they're doing. And so that overall raises the overall impression as well.
I know some of your seminar leaders might say it's okay to bring cue cards in, but just don't do it. You might think it's going to help you remember stuff, but if anything, it's a huge distraction. It looks like you guys haven't studied your PowerPoint presentation.
Make sure the words on the screen are something that you can relate to, so like trigger words that you're like, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to talk about this. Like my evaluation slide just has the 5 key evaluation components to it, and I know research publication what I have to talk about, teaching what I have to talk about, institution building, like memorize everything else, but you have the trigger words there that you can relate to. But don't post on the slide.
And if you forget something, don't be like, oh shit, like someone did in my group. Just keep talking about anything, or like look at someone so they can like help you out or something. But don't swear.
Yeah. Don't ever swear in your presentation. Never. No matter what happens, just don't. The other advice, and Dan doesn't have that in his PowerPoint, but one thing you really, really want to do, well actually, you want to make your PowerPoint memorable. You want it to stand out to the judges. The judges you want to be that presentation where when they go out at the end of the day and they talk to the other judges and they say, whose was awesome? They say, oh no, that guy, because his presentation stood out. And some of the ways you can make your presentation stand out, catchphrases are a really big one. I know it's not always easy to make a catchword relate, and the important thing is not to try and force a catchword in there, because if you try and force it, it'll seem really forced, and it'll seem like you were just trying to stick a word in there, a buzzword in there for the sake of sticking a buzzword in there, and you don't want to do that. But if it's something like an HR case, and you can think of, I don't know, a word like chime or awesome or something, and relate it, 8 letters in awesome? 8 letters? 7 letters? And each letter stands for kind of a step in your implementation plan. Then the judges will say, oh, that was awesome, and they'll say, hey, awesome, that reminds me of their implementation plan for all 7 of those letters, and that's something that helps make it memorable.
We do that a lot with our analysis. We don't do SWOT, we do different things. So if we do a case on RIM, we'd have RIM standing for different aspects of the company that we can identify them with. That helps you stand out. We use a lot of key catchphrases in my stuff. Conundrum of success, that's something that we always come up with. Bridging process, just those little key things that are usual, but not outrageous.
And during question period, I'm sure your seminar leaders have told you come together.
Yeah.
Don't all stand
If you're standing on 2 and 2, you should like come together to one side.
It's okay to stand in front of the screen during question period. Do you have a question?
Can we open up a presentation with like an anecdote?
If it's related.
If it's related?
Yeah, so if you can tie your anecdote, and you don't want it to drag on either. Like, it's got to be short, sweet, to the point. But anecdotes would be the best thing for sourcing for a presentation.
Yeah, I think so.
Questions, people? Come on.
Now's your chance.
We're only here once.
If you want to ask about, the process, how this was all put together, or anything like that, we're here to answer your questions for you guys. So
Anything
don't be
about
shy.
PowerPoint, anything about how to do anything?
Most of this stuff here, we hardly use any smart art when we do our PowerPoints. Depends how good you guys are with your PowerPoint. Don't be afraid of it, just don't overuse it either, because it gets old really fast.
No spelling mistakes, guys.
Spelling mistakes are huge.
Oh, actually one thing I'll bring up, consistency and capitalization. So you'll see on Dan's slides here, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna capitalize the first letter in every slide, capitalize the first letter in every slide. Don't have it sometimes where you have capitalized first letter every slide, and sometimes you have, and maybe something like that.
Things were wrong. Yeah.
There's a little error there, but you'll see, like, for example, you see self-appraisal has a capital A, and then fears of loopholes and inequitable measures, small l, small m. So you want to be consistent there, just because little things like that judges pick up on. It's something that they say, okay, like, it's not, you know, it doesn't look right. And that's one of the things. You don't want to draw negative attention to your slides. So yeah, like this is how you want to do it. If you're going to capitalize like that throughout the entire thing. Anybody else have any questions?
Is it a good idea to have pictures?
Bad idea.
For
For
Biz
guys,
201,
for Biz 201, because you guys, like, for JDC West, we don't have outside sources, so we can never use pictures. For Biz 201, I would err on the side of saying yes, but make sure they don't distract, make sure you don't use too many of them, make sure they're not too big. They're there as like supplementals of anything, right? Just to add to everything, but not to be your major focus, would be my feedback on that.
if you're putting a picture in for the sake of, you know, filling space, don't do it. Unless it serves a real purpose, you don't want to do it.
White space is actually really good. Keep it clean cut. Focus on this, who cares about this? But if it serves to enhance your presentation, why not?
Yeah.
How do you find the most efficient way to time manage as you're going through the presentation, to how much time you should put into every slide, depending on what you're talking about? Like, just as you yourself were going through it, how did you, in your mind, just think, okay, I need to talk about this, this, and this, but how much to talk about, you know?
Practice is what it
Practice.
comes down to, just gauging it.
I mean, we had like a phone with a timer right by the person that was clicking the keyboard, but don't let that distract you guys.
Do they get like countdown sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
think
guys do get like
That's where they're gauged to kind of watch it. Yeah, practice is really the only way to make sure you have.
as a group, like get together, not the day before, not the night before, not the day of. It's important to do it 3 times, and then even when you're at home, practice your own part, time your own part, and then tell your groups how much time your part was, if you guys can't all get together.
So say someone in your group, the person before you took too long in his or her part, and you know you don't have as much time as you thought you would have. Is it